Hey everybody, Courtney here. I wanted to come in and talk to you all a little bit about, I had an experience today and I wanted to share it, and I re-listened to my interview on Bigger Pockets podcast and it was so enlightening. I was at my husband's retirement party today from being a police officer for over 37 years, and we have a roofing company on the side. And so there was a young man I got to talking to, and he had an Airbnb, and I asked him, do you listen to Bigger Pockets? And he is a police officer. His wife's a teacher. And he said, I do. And I said, oh, well, do you listen to Bigger Pockets Money? He listened to Bigger Pockets Real Estate. And he said, I don't. And I told him, I said, I was even a guest on the show. And I told him about it a little bit. And he goes, well, what were you a guest on? I said, well, we were a guest for being broke to financially independent in 10 years. And he asked me to tell him more. So with that, I decided to listen to the show again. I have not listened to it in a year because it was kind of painful for me to listen to. For those of you who follow me, but I was not prepared that day to do my success story. So when I told it, I was speaking a million miles a minute, and I kind of told the highlight reel of the good things that happened, but it didn't really show the struggle. And so I started thinking like I wasn't prepared, and I don't like going into anything not being prepared. I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm going in my 23rd year, and I, at this point, still practice before I teach. And I've taught tens of thousands of classes. Well, thousands and thousands of classes. I quit counting at 10,000 hours. So I like to be prepared, and I wasn't. So started thinking about it, and I also mentioned some 4-year goals I had last year, and we met those goals already this year in 1 year, and kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline and how we got here. So here's our timeline to financial independence. When we were 40 and 53, we met. We both were recently divorced. I had an income of $15,000. I had 401k debt, 401k of $94,000. I had a house debt of $170K. I had a car debt of $11,000, windows $7,000, a lawyer $10,000, and I owed my ex-husband $5,000 in order to buy the house, which came out to $202,000 or $32,000 in consumer debt. And I had an income of only $15,000. I had $14,000 in the bank in a work account, which I owed services on, so I couldn't spend that money like just in a lump. I had to pay myself out of it for a year. So for the next year, I would have to live on that money. And so what I did at that time was I went out and I got another job. And so I was teaching classes at the YMCA, and I asked my boss if they had another job, and they gave me a job. It was only $600 a month. It paid $10 an hour. And then I started teaching more classes, and I took my yoga school. I started teaching more yoga school and teaching workshops, and I just increased my income. Yoga was a side hustle for me up until the year before my divorce. It was something, well, even then, it was a side hustle. Listen, I love yoga. I love the practice of yoga. I love sharing it, but I never intended for it to become my work, really. I mean, well, I did, but it wasn't like something, I didn't have high aspirations. I was happy teaching 3 yoga classes a week, making enough money to buy our groceries. So I never intended to have like a 25-year career that would span into books and documentaries and all that, which it did. So out of necessity more though than passion. So I worked more. I then focused on getting an emergency fund. I've built up an emergency fund first of a couple $1,000s. I got debt free. Over the next 4 years, I would do the same thing, rinse and repeat, earn more income. I got up to $59,000, but my income varied greatly from year to year. From about $27,000 to $59,000 was my highest year. I averaged in the high 30s to low 40s with child support and spousal support. I would invest a little bit each year into my TII CREF account, which was going nowhere. I would pay the debt off, and I would continue to build the emergency fund. Being a single mom, I wanted 1 year of income. In 4 years, I would reach the level of having $25,000 saved on earning between $30,000 and $59,000 a year. I would pay off the $32,000 in debt, and I would continue to work on making that same amount of money. As the debt got paid, I continued to save. By 2016, which is about 6 years later, I was dating my husband now, and he was cleaning up his financial mess from his previous life. He had been in bankruptcy. He owed a big tax bill. He was paying that off. You can't do that on bankruptcy. And he was learning about personal finance. We went through 2 Dave Ramsey. We went through 1 Dave Ramsey course. I had already been through one. So he was cleaning that up. He started working more, and he started saving. By the time 2016 hit, I had $25,000 saved, and he had 48 to 52. I can't remember exactly. And we were dating. We had just moved in together, and we were trying to live off one income and save the rest, but we were not married. I was able to get a loan on this place. We purchased this land for $120,000. The total loan we took out was $218,000. Because there was a trailer and a house on it that we were going to remodel, they gave me a bridge loan. I didn't have enough income to support the house I had in town and this house. My husband could not be on that this property because he had a bankruptcy. So he gave me the down payment. I had to put $26,000 down and on it. But because I had a good relationship with the bank, and I had always paid my house payment on time or early and paid a little bit more, they gave me a bridge loan, which means you agree that they're going to take your house, which it was risky, and they gave me a higher interest rate. I didn't get a great interest rate if you don't sell it. So it was scary, but they would have made money on it. So at any rate, I did sell it. It took 2 years. From 2016 to 2018, we built this house. And this is another big pivotal point. Let me reiterate. Emergency fund, get out of debt, take the money you were taking towards debt and save it. So we got the down payment on the farm. We have to build a house because we can't save the house or the trailer that we had here. In hindsight, I wouldn't have cared if we had remodeled the trailer and lived in it for a while until we got everything paid off, but we didn't. We built this house. My husband and his buddies built this house in a year. And because we had only borrowed $218 with the intentions of fixing up the small farmhouse that was here, well, now we had to build a house for that. And so we had the cash that we had saved, but I was not willing to use my $25,000 because I still was raising kids and didn't feel comfortable with that. So we had the cash that we had saved, and as I was working, any money I had that had previously gone to debts or to emergency funds went into the house. My husband did the same thing, my then fiance. So when it came time to buy the countertops, I paid for those out of my work, my work excess. So I was living on around we were living on around $33,000, and together at that time we were making about $70,000 combined income, $70,000 to $80,000. And we were living on a third of that, and we were putting everything extra we made into this farm. So we get this farm done, we clear the land, we build this cabin, we do a lot of sweat equity. My husband did all the woodwork. They framed it, put the siding on the inside, the outside, they trimmed it. We did the roof. We hired someone to do the floors, the tile, the cabinetry, the plumbing, but we contracted it all out, and the HVAC. And so at the end of the day, our total note was $218. Over the next 4 years, we continued to live on a third to a fourth of our income, and we used the rest to save an emergency fund and pay the house down. Now, mind you, we were living on about $70,000 to $80,000. We get married in 2018. Till about we start increasing our income with the business. We're making closer to $100,000 to $110,000. and we start taking that money and just aggressively paying it on the house. Okay, I start fully funding our IRAs at that time. It's not a lot. As of last year in 2020, I'm kind of hesitant to share numbers, but we weren't in a great place for people our age at 51 and 64. We were, in the sense that we had saved a lot more cash. We paid off the house last year in 2021 in May, and March or May, I can't remember. It's August of September 2023. I'm sorry, 2022, we paid off the house. So in the next 4 years, we pay off the house from 2018 to 2022. Then we start taking the money that we were paying on the house and we start investing it into our IRA, and I open up a solo 401k last year. I start putting as much money as I can into it. And as of today in 2023, this is a 12.5-year trajectory. I've been able to fully fund the 401k to the limit that we were allowed to with our income, and the IRA, I was able to reach, we had a 4-year goal last year. I'm almost to the 4-year goal for the IRA and the 401k that I had for 4 years, 3 more years from now. So it took me a year. That was just one of those things where we own a roofing business and there were a lot of storms. And so the thing is, my takeaway for this is you have to be ready when opportunity hits. If we had not been ready, we would not have been able to do it. My husband had taken a job that allowed him to only have to be at the office about 12 full days a month, and the rest of them were like half days, so he could work a little bit, go in, do his work, and go check on jobs. We would sub out a bunch of the work, but we had built a system in place so that when we got busy, we were able to do that. A lot of people think my Airbnb is where I made all the money, but that's not really the case. We did build an Airbnb in 2020. When my house sold, I saved the money and we built the Airbnb. We started in 2019. So that was actually for a family member. It's just a guest cabin. Then I had a cash goal of reaching a certain amount, and we have nearly doubled that. But the total cash goal we had in 4 years, we've been able to reach in 1 year, because we have just not inflated our lifestyle. Now, in that period, because we had lived so frugal for so long, I have increased some of the things we're getting to do now. So like, we haven't really gone on any more vacations, but I can afford to just go out and fly to meet my son. But the truth is, I used hotel points and he picked me up. I didn't have to rent a car. I stayed with him. My flight out there cost $11 because I used, I said hotel points, credit card points. I've just learned so much from the FIRE movement and from Bigger Pockets Money and Choose FI. These are both podcasts. And I've taken their courses, that I've just been able to create systems that are super frugal. So we have increased our style of living this year to, well, I'm going to say it's around maybe $68,000 a year. And that's just, we paid cash for a car. I've been letting us enjoy life a little bit more because I didn't read the book Die with Zero, but I've listened to a whole bunch of podcasts on it, and I've listened to a whole bunch of Ramit Sethi's books, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And I started to realize that we're not getting any younger, and we need to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor now, because there is a point that's going to come where we're not going to be able to. So I am planning on having the same or less income in retirement, but in knowing that, I'm trying to get where we enjoy or spend some of that money now. So I've been loosening up the reins a little bit, but that doesn't look like anything wild. I think it probably looks like less than what most people do on the regular, right? I've allowed myself to start getting manicure and pedicure, a basic one every month. I still won't pay for an expensive massage. I don't get facials. I don't get hair color. I don't get fake nails. Those are just choices I make personally. I don't care what other people do. I'm not judging that. I don't get Botox or fillers. I don't buy new clothes very often. I did pay cash for a $25,000 car. It's used, 5 years old. But yeah, so, you know, we are still able to live. That still represents just a smaller portion of our income, but we are still able to save a larger portion. And so, granted, not everybody's going to start a business and it's going to grow exponentially. There's some good fortune in that. Maybe call it luck. But I do believe that luck is preparation meeting opportunity. The thing I do know for sure is that many people get opportunities in their life and they waste them. And I will say this, my husband works very, very hard, and that has also been very fruitful for us. However, if you have a 9-to-5 job or an 8-to-5 job and you're making $40,000 a year, you probably are going to have to increase your income. The other thing is just getting out of debt, saving the money that you put on the debt, continuing to drive your cars, not always upgrading. All of these things you learn in the financial independence movement, and learning how much you're going to need to retire, learning what your bare bones budget is. All of these things that you apply are going to move the needle. Before my husband and I had this business, my plan was to be debt free, have an emergency fund, and that when I got to Social Security age, I wouldn't need very much to live, so that I could live on Social Security and what little bit, and to continue to put into my 401k what I could, even if it was $1,000 a year, $1,200, $100 a month, because I knew it might not be a lot, but if I didn't have a lot, let's say I had $200,000 when I retired, which is about average for people, like $164,000 actually. That's going to give you about $8,000 on top of Social Security a year. So that's not a lot, but if you have little bills and little wants and you set your life up where you don't spend a lot anyway, you're not going to get accustomed to being on the hedonic treadmill or keeping up with the Joneses, and you can live on less. And the other thing is, like, I've been preparing to live on less. So sorry, the flies are so bad right now. It's so hot. It is a freaking oven out here. It's like 108 today, I think. If you go to matinee movies and you go to inexpensive restaurants and you read from the library and you learn to take walks and hike and go to the lake and swim and have picnics, your life isn't costing a lot of money. But if you like to play golf, no offense to playing golf, but that's expensive, or you like to do expensive hobbies, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make that transition later. So you have to think about that if you don't have the money to do them. So just wanted to share some of my thoughts about that. But reflecting and listening to that podcast today was kind of painful because, again, I wasn't prepared and I didn't feel like I gave a good picture of what I wanted to give, because I thought I wasn't supposed to be doing a success story. I was supposed to be doing a Finance Friday, which is where they help you with your finances. So I came completely prepared for something else. But it was good because I was shocked when I heard how much money we had in that podcast and how much money we had saved. I had no idea we had done so well. So if you want to listen to it, it's Bigger Pockets Money, and you just put Courtney Robinson and you'll find it. It is on YouTube. It's not my best work, but at any rate, you'll kind of see. So I'm wishing you all the best, and no matter what your income now, just get on the path. Just follow the steps, and you're going to be better off tomorrow than you are today.